Du-du. Awesome. We are recording. There we go. So here this morning with Dan from Systemations. How are you, Dan?
I'm doing very, very well. Thanks for having me, man. It's been a long time coming.
Good to see you, mate. Now, Dan, with your Irish accent, but surprisingly, you are actually part of the Australian high-level community. You actually live not too far down the road from me, and we were actually out for drinks last week, I think it was, wasn't it? We had a little
It was.
high-level Australian catch-up, mate. It was great.
Yeah, a lot of fun. A lot of fun. I think for me, when I moved to a new state, it was important to try and find people who are like-minded, and it's been really good, especially with the Go High Level community for that. Talking to other business owners and bouncing ideas off each other. That's the best thing that I get from it.
Yeah, it's been really good. We have a great little community here in Australia, mate. But you are in today, not just for your good looks and Irish charm, mate. You're not here just for that. We're going to talk about social media today and how you grew your social media account from 5,000 to 500,000 users in 90 days, which is quite an impressive feat, mate. Well done.
Thanks very much. It was the 4.5 year overnight success, as I call it.
Tinkering and figuring things out as you go. But there is a system to these things. And I mean, we do as much as I can, but there's some time and I always know that we can do better. We do okay. But we can always do better. But there's definitely tips and tricks. And even if you can just apply two or three of these things that you're going to go through today, then that's going to help people with their social media. And social media, it's still such an important avenue. Well, I say still such an important avenue. It is such an important avenue. Um, I've had many of these conversations with people now because AI is a massive thing, right? Everyone's AIing everything. Um, but social media, being on social, being sociable, being a real person, building your personal brand, I still think right now is a huge thing, and particularly right now is a huge thing in this, let's call it like a low trust factor economy, right? So we're going to go through some of that and then how important that is to do and then how to do it and what that's actually done for you and your business. So before we kind of dive into that, mate, do you want to just give us a little bit of your background? You work in the fitness niche. That's where you kind of started out as well, as we can see by your lovely gym in the background there. We actually share workouts as well. We're in a little
Enough
JHL.
kettlebells here for you. Look at this. All my
Mate,
kettlebells
that's
here for
very
you.
good, mate. Love it, mate. You got to get those kettlebells in that fitness app that I know you're building as well. Those kettlebell workouts, mate. Because we're actually in a fitness. We're in a couple of groups together. We're a high level fitness group. We share our Saturday morning workouts that we do, which is all good as well, mate. But do you want to give us a little bit of background? Who is Dan? Where did he come from, and how did you get to where you are now, mate?
Yeah, I'll make the condensed version. I've always been into sports, played high levels of sports throughout my life. Got a lot of injuries, unfortunately, bad accidents from being hit by a car, breaking most bones that you can think of as a kid. Just I was a bit of a wild child. And then as I got a little bit older, I ended up having to stop playing football a lot earlier than I would like. I stopped playing about 28. And it really opened my eyes to, well, why is there somebody else the same kind of physique as me able to still play? And I fell down a rabbit hole of how to move better, I guess is the best way to put it. And that led me into becoming a handstand coach. It led me to moving to Australia. And then I started to train a lot of people and I saw a big market for it, especially with the mobility side of things. Started posting on social media daily for about 4.5 years. Got to about 5,000 followers, which was quite a slog, if I'm being honest. Back then, we're talking 2018, 2020, what you would do a lot of the times was piggyback some big fitness companies, because if you shared content that they liked, they would reshare it, and that was a tactic that we used. But it got me to about 5,000 followers. But then the whole kind of reels kicked in, the whole algorithm and performance started to kick in, and that's when we really started to look at the metrics. And then I started to trial a specific type, which I'll go through today. And then I noticed that that popped off, and then I doubled down on that. And because I had already had a large amount of content, people started to binge on my content. And I'll talk about that as well, just the importance of having multiple different pieces of content so that when someone does come onto your profile, they don't just look at one and disappear. So lived in Sydney for 8 years, was working in the fitness industry. Then COVID happened. I lost 90% of my earnings in a week. That
Mm.
was a bit catastrophic for about 2 years. Thankfully, I come from a working class area. I've never really had money as a kid. So I was, I don't live beyond my means. I was able to just readjust. And then rather than bitch and moan about it, I was going into a gym, my friend's gym at 1 o'clock in the morning, making social media videos when everyone else was complaining about COVID. And yeah, I put that good foundation in. I built, this was before you could vibe code. We built online memberships and all that kind of stuff, which took 8 to 10 months as opposed to a month of vibe coding. So we put a lot of effort into our platform, and that's what helped us then to understand not just the tech space, but obviously the fitness space. And now I help businesses basically not get overwhelmed by AI and systems, because I do understand it can be a little bit overwhelming. And that's what's led me to where I am today, right?
Yeah, mate, very good. Yeah, and like you've been through the trenches of it at the end of the day, and like figured out what
Still
works,
am.
what doesn't work, and hey,
I still am. I was
yeah,
working till midnight last night. I love it, but it is, I always say this to everybody, especially prospects and stuff. There's no master of AI, because
no,
it's just adapting so quickly. You just got to stay with it. You got to keep upskilling, learning, making mistakes, and just getting better at it. And then just pick your market, right? You know your market, we know our market, and then just being, if it's a part of AI and you are not a master of it, pass people on to the person who is. And that's the way I've always kind of led my businesses, right?
yeah, no, and you're very true. It is evolving so quickly, and everything's changing and adapting. So it's just like the person who's selling the course on whatever it is, the latest thing anyway, they're probably only 2 weeks ahead anyway, or they've just spent another couple of hours doing something, or they've got another or an agent to summarize something and make a course on it anyway. So, but social media, getting back to social media and actually getting in front of people and getting some views and spaces across your videos. I think you've got a little bit of a presentation
Yeah,
you're gonna run through for us here, and I know that thanks for your time this morning, because I know you do have a hard stop this morning as well. So, do you want to bring that up? We can dive into
sure.
that, and we can have a little discussion
Yeah.
as we go through, mate.
Yeah. So for me, what I talk about a lot is a lot of people waste a lot of money on ads. And what I mean by that is ads should be an amplification of things that you already know works. Uh, that might be just how you perform on camera. That might be the creatives that you create. You know that they resonate with your audience. And if you're not showing up organically, then it's very hard for you to really pinpoint it. And I'll give an example. We turned on ads about 2 weeks ago, and we have been inundated with leads at only $100 a day. But it's because I'm so precise of what I'm saying in those ads, and I like to think I'm okay on camera. 10 years doing it, you would expect to be confident enough. So now, like, what's happened is our influx of leads has been amplified by putting ads behind it. But it's because I knew who to be on camera, and that's something that I can't stress the importance of. We talk about social media, but in reality, it's interest media. And if you post interesting things and you are specific to what you do, then naturally you will have people resonate with you. And that's the kind of coach that people want if that's what you're doing, like if you're offering a service base, or if it's a product, it's being very open about what it is, what it does, what it doesn't do, so that people can make those educated guesses. And that's what turns people in from a cold audience into kind of warmer and hot, which is what we go through. And I'll just, I guess, one of the things that I always talk about is if you walked into a gym and you were overweight and you went and you did one gym session, you're not expecting to have a drastic improvement in your fitness just after that one session. And that's kind of what happens when it comes to social media. A lot of people will post maybe for a week and then they'll say nothing happened. What was the point? And they give up. For me, 90 days should be your like non-negotiable. Or even to be more specific, I would say don't judge yourself until you've got 100 posts out there. Anybody who's worked in marketing will understand this. There's no exception. There's no magic potion. You have to put stuff out there. You have to look at what's resonating with people. And there will be different things that you want to look at depending on the outcome that you want. So earlier on, when we just started talking, the most important thing here is your intent. Gary has a very successful business, and in my opinion, without showing up every single day on social media, especially say short form content, right? I do notice there is snippets coming out. So it's not necessarily essential for a lot of people, but it will definitely exponentially grow your business when done right. And I'm proof in the pudding. Okay. And I'll go through a little bit of that as well, not to toot my own horn, but just to show you what can actually come from the back of it and actually putting time and effort into this. Again, one of the things that really gripes me is when people work with marketing agencies, a lot of them promise the sun, moon, and stars. A lot of them talk about getting them all these leads coming in. We don't necessarily want 1,000 leads of just people who aren't aware of what you are or who you are or what you do. And that's what, again, I think is the importance of this organic strategy. Showing up every day, looking at what's working, forgetting about what's not working in the nicest way possible. If you haven't been showing up, your first videos are going to be shit. Just be okay with that. Like, you're going to get less shit, then they're going to get okay, then they're going to get good, and then they're going to get better. That's
Yeah.
just the nature of the game. Because then you'll understand the cadence of your voice that's needed. You'll understand, do I change my top? Do I use props? What kind of lighting do I need? That all just comes with time and effort. If I look back at 2017 when I first started posting on social media, I cringe at those videos. But I'm so thankful that I jumped into it and I just, put in the yards or put in the hours. And that's kind of the thing that I want to show you now is what comes off the back of that, right? Um, so what will you get today? I like to be actionable. I like to give you real cases, not just a slideshow, even though I will be showing you slides. I want to try and give you things from it that you can actually take and resonate with yourself, okay? Very much understanding your niche or your avatar is super important. A lot of people, especially when we move online, if someone's working in a high ticket environment, so let's say you are offering a service base and coaching somebody, or you have a product and there's tiers to it, you have to understand that if you can be more specific, it will really resonate with that person. And you don't necessarily have to have 100 people come in. And I'm going to make sense of this. If I'm a high ticket coach, realistically, to give a high ticket touch, to give the service that they deserve, you're probably only talking maybe, if you have a really good systems in place, 10 to 12 people a month is what you could probably onboard, right? If we're talking high ticket. So my point is, do you think online there's 12 people that want a very specific problem solved that you could potentially solve it? I would say yes. So my when I look at some people's content, because they'll say to me, I just can't grow on social media. I've been trying for years. I go and I look at it and it's too generic because they think, or at least they're saying, but I could help all these people. I'm like, cool. Why not help one category till you get to consistent 10 to 12 people each month? Then you can start to open the horizon a little bit. That's because most people, that's what they want. They want a consistent flow of people. And when you are more specific, like rather than me saying, hey, I can help you with your fitness. If I'm somebody who says, if you've been suffering with chronic back pain for the last 5 years, let me show you how we can overcome that in the next 90 days. That's going to be very specific to somebody, but it's also going to put them a little bit more of a pain point as to why they would put their hand up to come and work with you. If you're selling technology as an example, rather than just say, I can help you with AI, you could go into a specific market. So for example, we're currently targeting the construction business. A lot of them are overwhelmed by technology. So we go and we audit what they're actually doing manually, and then we give them an option or we give them a solution to how we can make systems do that. It's quite specific. Yeah, we could help every industry, I believe. But as I think it was Alex Hormozy said, until you have $1 million business in one specific niche, don't try and get out of that niche yet. And I think it's, again, what are you happy with? Are you happy with $50,000 months with a 70% profit margin? Like, would that make you happy? And that's kind of what I want to show you today is the importance of just having that foundation and getting your monthly recurring revenue at a level where you're comfortable, because then it's easier to scale. It's easier to be confident in the expenses that you're going to invest in, whether that's coaches or new systems and all that kind of stuff. And Gary's probably well aware of, putting a lot of money into softwares that you potentially don't need, but you want to trial them. And that's where having that disposable income is coming very helpful.
Every day, it feels like every day. But I think what you're saying there is exactly right as well, because like we've very, very intentionally, like with our software, My CRM Sim, very, very intentionally for I think we actually just had our 2 year anniversary. I should actually look at the dates. I think we've just been 2 years, right? And we did nothing outside of high level at all for 2 years. And then just coming up to 2 years, we opened up our API so people could start to use it in a few other things. And now we're going into all kinds of other areas. Like we're integrating with other CRMs. We've got full OAuth APIs. But we stayed in our lane for 2 years intentionally because there was all these other things that we could do. And I was like, no, 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 no. But we don't know how all those other things work. We don't know how other CRMs work. We don't know how to support them if they come on board. And then they go, oh, how do I connect this to that? It's like, no, no, no. Let's figure this out. And we stayed in our lane completely for the last 2 years, basically. And now we're branching out. So I think everything you're saying is exactly correct, basically.
Yeah. So in terms of the content, what I usually recommend is AI can be your friend, but AI is only powerful if you have the knowledge behind it. It's you go on to again, I'll relate it to fitness just because I'm very familiar with it. I'm very familiar with technology. It's if I go onto YouTube, I could find the best training program, but I have to know what I'm looking for. Gary touched on, I'm currently building my own app because I just got the shits with using white label apps for the fitness space and not having specific features that I would like. And I've spent the last 6 to 8 weeks now just, hours upon hours just vibe coding it. And because I know what I'm looking for and because I've used other apps and the mistakes that they've had, it's definitely been helpful because AI is a yes man. And you ask it to do something, it does it.
Mm.
But if it's wrong and you don't know, then you don't know. And the other thing I will say, just because we're talking about vibe coding, is so many people are making mistakes when it comes to the storage of data and the security behind it. It might look like the most amazing app, but you still have to have somebody in there that knows security that can actually, encapsulate this with, especially if you're storing data and storing people's information. Um, I signed up with a coach, and when I was filling in my information, like I had to go in and fill in all my information, like all the branding and all that kind of stuff. And when I logged in, the previous person's data was all sitting there. And I was going, this is insane. So just to be mindful on that. The systems
Yeah.
behind it, I'm guessing
So
a
mate,
lot of,
segue. We've got a webinar next week exactly about that vibe coding and security. And we've got Cody, and I forget his surname off the top of my head, but Cody coming in and talking exactly about that, the importance of security and vibe coding apps, and all the holes that we're in, all these things that people are building at the moment. So you're spot on, mate.
so with the system, a lot of people listening to this are going to be familiar with Go High Level. Any kind of software that you can blast out across multiple platforms is going to be most optimal here because this isn't about spending every single day on social media. This is about, for most of the businesses that we work with, it's 2 hours a week. They film all the content, they upload it into a drive. Our editors come in, edit all the footage for them, post it across social media on their behalf. Without a system, there is no way you're going to be able to scale with that. There's no way you're going to compete with the way businesses are working right now. And in terms of personal branding, you have about, I would reckon, 12 to 18 months that if you're not putting effort in now, you're going to be whitewashed by the people who are doing it because now people with a bit of disposable income are now actually having media teams and the scale of what they're growing at is exponential. You're not just talking about like Alex Hormozy, Gary Vee, Dan Martell, these sort of people who have hundreds of millions and literally have a team of 10 to 20 people filming them all day, all that kind of stuff. But that is the way a lot of businesses are going because they're actually seeing the benefit. Look at Cody Sanchez, all these people, they see the benefit. Now, that obviously works really, really well in a coaching space. If you're obviously owning a business, I will talk about the difference between personal branding and, say, a business page, and I guess the approach that you would potentially do with that. Um, the thing here, though, is you've probably seen a lot of this. Like you can save time by spending money, you can save money by spending time, but a lot of this does require a strategy. Okay, and what I recommend for a lot of people, especially with organic strategies, is you can get, it's inexpensive, right? It's just going to involve your time, but it's not going to like when I was posting in from 2017 2022, I wasn't using any Hootsuite or any of these softwares that you could blast across multiple platforms. I was also editing all my own videos. I was recording, so I was spending about 15 to 20 hours a week, which for a lot of people it's not realistic. But for me, it was, COVID had taken 90% of my business away, so I didn't really have a choice. And I am a little tech geek at heart, so I actually really enjoyed making videos, editing them, and all that kind of stuff. So in terms of where you're probably at now, if you're not using an organic strategy, is that you maybe aren't seeing the monetary value that you could get from it, which is usually what happens with most people. They think like, well, the business is going well. Why would I show up on social media? Or why would I put a lot more effort into organic strategies? Maybe your ads are working, but you're also like, well, the ads are working. There's no point in bothering with social media. And I would disagree because Gary will attest to this. Gary's revenue, or at least the way my CRM sim has grown, has been a lot down to collaborations, affiliations, referrals, right? And that is
Mm.
super powerful. And that's another reason why you should be doing organic strategy, because people don't just want to see ads of you sell, 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 sell. People want to see you as a human being. They want to see, for example, I was on another presentation and Gary said, I know what Dan does on a Monday morning. He goes to pickleball at 9:30 because he tells social media about it. And I'm like, but people want to see you as a
You're a
human being.
champion pickleballer now, mate, as well. I know that too.
Me and Steve Tan.
You and Steven.
And so for me, it's like, I'm going to talk about a traffic light system. And that's kind of what I use in my business. It's what I use in a lot of things. The reason being is I was a car salesman for about 10 years. And one of the things that we learned was don't ever burn anybody because they just might not be ready to buy right now. I spoke earlier about the idea of getting people to binge on your content. So the more content that you have out there, the quicker you can get somebody to make a decision. I know with most of the stuff that we produce, both businesses, it takes on average between 6 to 12 months for a lot of people to make a decision. Okay. Now that's from the organic standpoint. Obviously, when we run ads, now we can get people who are hot to trot because we're very specific. But I'm not going to say no to somebody coming in every 6 months and wanting to work with me. For the sake of 2 hours a week, it's posted across multiple platforms. I'm growing on social media. Like what Gary does here as an example, this will go out onto YouTube. It could sit there for the next 10 years and people can just watch it. That's the beauty of this sort of stuff, okay? Now, in relation to our traffic light system, if you are just starting out or if you're moving into a new niche, like you being honest on social media and actually just being outspoken. I'm going to talk about top of funnel, middle of funnel, and bottom of funnel today, and the strategies we would use for those. The bottom of funnel is very much your direct, like, call to action. Like, hey, I've got this thing, or I'm looking for these sort of people. If you want to get involved, come here, click this thing. Because you want to kind of get the low hanging fruit, right? And you want to, if you're not, I relate it to like Puma and Adidas and Nike. We all know who they are. Why do they do advertisements still? Because they want to stay relevant. They want to be in your face. So if you're not putting videos out there consistently or you're not posting consistently, you're not giving people that information of what you do. Don't presume people know what you do. Even people still don't know what I do. And I post multiple times a day. So in terms of your cold leads, this is where Gary's really good at like reactivation campaigns. This is where cold leads are really good for that. We put them in a specific box. We nurture them until they're ready to become more like an orange or an amber kind of warm lead. And then that's where we're going to be spending most of our time, even with our content. They're the people that we're going to be looking at. Strategies that are really effective is that if you're talking to somebody and you hear a problem and you're the person who solves it, write it in your notes section. Collate that data, then make footage about it. I put an ad out 2 weeks ago, as I said. I did a convention. I was at a convention last month where I was speaking to builders. I was asking them their problems. What was the biggest headaches they had with social media? I got about 10 touch points. Then I made ads on those touch points. And all of a sudden we had an influx of builders and people in the construction industry reaching out. Why? Because if there's 20 people in front of me that are having those headaches, you guarantee there's a lot more that are having those same headaches. And use that data. It'll be really important. In terms of how you set things up, I'm obviously showing you Instagram here, but Facebook works the same. TikTok works the same. LinkedIn has a little bit of a different strategy behind it, which I can touch on. But effectively, this is your front of house. And you don't own this. Meta owns it. So you can't tell how many people come onto your page, okay? But what you, like as in how many people come onto your page and don't take any kind of action. You have no idea. If they come onto a website, obviously we can track that and we can have some procedures in place. So very much what I always recommend is have an actionable. You'll see here I have DM growth to scale your brand. That's important because if somebody comes across here and they see, like this is nearly like a landing page in a way, you want to be very clear and precise of what you do. You want a really good image of you so that they can create that personal affiliation with you. Your highlights are really important because highlights can be case studies that you do. They can be products that you offer. They can be just even you as a human being, like this is dad life. Again, I want to understand you. A good example that I use is if we look at builders, most builders don't need 100 new leads. They need to build an extra 2 to 3 houses a year, which would make them a lot more comfortable. Okay. For them to do that, most of their referrals are coming from designers, architects, that sort of stuff. So for them, they don't necessarily have to be pumping out all this content that you see, which is drone footage, before and afters. They're all great. But if I want to build a house and I am in a specific area, I'm going to shortlist the builders in that area. If they're all doing the same thing, nobody stands out. They commit
Mm.
to a shortlist, and then I'll make a decision based on the shortlist. If there's one of them that's on screen, charismatic, telling me the problems that they solve, the case studies they've worked with, all that kind of stuff, I'm already going to resonate a little bit more with that individual. The caveat is they still have to be good. You don't want a shit builder. You might show up on social media but be shit. But you know what I mean? Like the importance of that, and you probably see it when you watch somebody's content regularly, you nearly feel like you know them. You might have
Yeah.
never met them. And that's the importance of this sort of stuff. Okay. In terms of like what channels should I use? For the start, for most people, I would say ready, fire, aim. Blast it out on all channels. The builders is a good example. They might necessarily get people from Instagram. We target LinkedIn a lot more with something like builders. Instead of the end user, i.e. the person who's going to get their house built, we'll try and target more like architects. We'll try and target designers, and we'll create a connection with current architects that they work with. So then when we make more connections with other architects, it shows this ecosystem. They're like, oh, you work with such and such. Okay, cool. I'll make this connection. And that's where you have to have the importance of which particular social media channel you want to use. If you don't know, post across them all, watch the metrics, and which one is giving you more bang for your buck. Do I think you need to be across all channels? I don't think so. But if you don't know which channel, I would highly recommend post across them all. Gary, you like obviously YouTube Shorts and putting these kind of videos onto YouTube. If that works, you stick with it, right? For me, because I'm trying to help people with social media and systems, I just blast it across all of them. It's still, maybe one video gets me 10,000 views on Instagram and maybe only gets me 500 views on YouTube. It's still 500 views.
That's what I was going to say. It's like blast on all of them because you can do that anyway with tools, right? So you create your short and that can go everywhere anyway. We we sort of focus on YouTube and Facebook. The content goes everywhere, but then we focus on YouTube and Facebook to make sure that that's where we're um, getting engaged in the conversations and stuff as well, right? I wouldn't have a clue if somebody has commented on a video on TikTok because like we don't really get anything from there. They're on TikTok, they get a few views, whatever. I don't even look at that at all. So the content goes everywhere, but we focus in YouTube and Facebook because that's where the conversations happen. So if that makes sense.
Yeah, of course. And then that just comes down to you posting it across them and seeing that. I have yet to have a video go viral on both platforms. And I've had videos go viral on different platforms that have been posted across all platforms. So the point of the story is I've had millions of views on TikTok and that video didn't do millions of views on Instagram. So having millions of views on TikTok and then having another video with millions of views on Instagram has been very beneficial for us. And if I
Mm.
didn't post them across them, and the other thing I also talk about is don't be a perfectionist. I'm going to show you the metrics of one of the videos that we had that had nearly 15 million views, right? And it wasn't me dancing to a TikTok trend. It was specific to the industry that I was working in. But the point of the story is that the video was a bit blurry. I didn't really like it. And I just posted it because I was like, well, I've edited it now, just post it. And so a lot of people are so fixated because, if I look at even me, I'm a perfectionist of making sure the lighting's good here, this is this here. That can be a downfall for people who haven't started yet. It's the same, like, do you need a microphone that I have here? Do you need all these lightings and the stream deck and iPads? No, you don't. Not at the start. You need to just start, basically. As I said earlier, it's going to be shit to start, and that's okay. And then it's going to be less shit, and then it's going to be okay. And you're just going to keep getting better because you're going to look at the metrics, right? And what I wanted to highlight here was just kind of the reference of understanding your niche and your avatar. A lot of people, like, for example, I've had business coaches. Now I actually prefer to work with a particular coach for a specific problem that I'm having rather than a more general coach. And it works for most people. If they have a specific headache and you're the person that's ranting and raving about it on social media that you can solve it, they're more likely going to want to reach out with you. So I can't stress the importance of being a little bit specific as a starting point. Obviously, as we grow and stuff like that, we can be a little bit more, um, you can have qualifying questions to even just get on a calendar with you. You can have those barriers to entry because you're more comfortable. But let's get that monthly recurring revenue to a point where you're happy. Then you can start to be a little bit, open that horizon. That would be my opinion on most of this stuff. Okay. Um, all right, let's get into the actual kind of framework behind things because I think this is important, right? There is a method to what you're doing. I'll give you an example. There's this guy that I follow on Instagram, and he gets like every video gets millions of views. And what he does is he's like 6'2", he's absolutely shredded. And he goes into public places, takes his shirt off, and he dances basically down the middle, right? And he's just
Seen
this
that guy.
big, massive dude. He's just like raving like this, right? Picks
Yeah.
the most like craziest of songs. Now, people will say, well, what does that got to do with his business? I know personally he makes 50,000 US dollars a month. Why? Because he's jacked. He sells fitness programs. So people go, well, I want to be jacked like him. He's entertaining. So he's always showing up on their feed. So he's top of house. So for a top of funnel content, his works really, really well. Now, where does he get them into kind of the middle and the bottom of funnel? Stories. So when you start to follow him and you go into his stories, then he shows you before and after pictures of the people he's trained. Then he puts up a call to action of, hey, I'm looking for 5 guys who want to lose this weight this week. So don't negate the importance of a top of funnel approach. A top of funnel, I think for most people, should be within the industry or should have the intent as to why people would know what you do. So sometimes dancing to a TikTok video, might get you more views, but if somebody comes onto your page, are they going to look at the video that they first saw and then look at other videos and go, I want to follow this person? Because if they don't, it's just a waste of time. I've seen people with 100 million views on a video. They've got 2,000 followers. Why? Because they did a trend. It didn't relate to what they actually do or what they sell. So people just kind of went, yeah, that was a funny video. I'll like it. Maybe I'll share it to somebody. I'm not going to follow that page. This is where it's important, okay? You can be, catchy and you can use something quirky, but make sure it's relevant to what you're doing. And I'm going to actually show you the metrics of this now so that it makes a little bit more kind of sense to why you would do it, right? So with a lot of the attraction stuff, that is to get people's attention. That is what short form is all about, okay? But you might necessarily make any money off that yet, but you will get people into your pipeline or you will get people into your ecosystem, and that's the importance of it, okay? I'm going to give you the actual example here. So I told you about a video. It had 14.9 million views or whatever it was. So we had over 13 million accounts reached. All right. So this is, I guess you would class this as being pretty super viral. Okay. The beauty of this was it was specific to the industry that we were in. So straight away, people went, that was a quirky video. And there was a bit of a strategy behind it. So this particular video was asking people if they could touch their toes. Really quick and precise that hook was. I always talk about hooks as being like, think of the words that you have to use. You'd be trying to get the most amount of information out in the least amount of words. So think of words as a currency and you're a tight arse who doesn't want to spend any money, right? So rather than you say, hey, are you somebody who can't touch your toes? That video was just, can't touch your toes? I'm literally trying to get someone to stop that scroll. Then I told them how long the video was going to be. I said, give me a minute. I want to show you something. So I started to lead them down this pathway because I'm trying to buy more time. Then I gave them a thing. I said, okay, try and touch your toes. Now I'm going to give you something to try. And then I want you to try and touch your toes again. What that gave was a positive and a negative response. The positive was some people were able to touch their toes, hadn't done it in years, and they were blown away, sent it to all their friends and said, hey, you need to try this. Or someone went, that didn't work for me, sent it to someone else, said, that didn't work for me, did it work for you? So what we did was we knew people were going to share it. We knew people were going to comment on it. It had something like 250,000 shares, which is insane, right? So then what had happened was people saw that, came onto my page, that was fitness related and went, oh, this guy's actually really knowledgeable when it comes to fitness. So because I had middle of funnel and bottom of funnel stuff, they came in for the entertainment side of things. And then they realized, actually, this guy knows his shit. I want to work with this person. So in any industry that you're in, play the game. Put out content that is going to attract people's attention. What's working really, really well in 2026 is not having super over edited videos. All the B-roll stuff and all that, people are a little bit fatigued by that. They're actually liking a little bit more authentic videos, especially with the way AI is now. You even just holding a phone and talking to the phone, I know by the metrics, it's performing a lot better than me setting up my digital camera, having all the lights, having my media team here and doing all the stuff. It's getting the same amount of views, if not even more views, just me walking down a park talking about things. So again, how do I know that? From the data. Okay. One thing I do want to highlight to you, I'll talk about it in a second, but it's just about revenue. Okay. 14 million views. Great. I'm going to show you how we actually made a lot more money on a video that didn't even perform anywhere near that in terms of views. Okay. The middle of funnel is where you're going to be putting a lot of your content as well, as in I put a lot of stuff about me training here, my kids dancing in the background or just being around me. I post a lot about going to pickleball as an example, even just being down the beach in the day. So people start to see you as a human being. It's really, really important. They want to see you not just as this highly structured, highly edited kind of social media. And that's, again, if we're relating this to personal brand. Okay. Moving into the middle of the funnel, this is the one that we can equate to making over $150,000 just from this post. Okay. And the reason how we know that is because with the middle of funnel, what we did here was we offered a 7-day free program. Off the back of it, we know that I think it was over 5,000 people commented, or I can see here from the comments was 3,800, but we have reposted it twice. So 3,800 people commented on this to get the free program. Then they entered into our Go High Level. We offered them a one-time offer of jumping on a call to actually talk about their circumstances. So very much the video was like, hey, thanks for reaching out for your HIT program. I'll send it across to you in a few minutes. While I have you, you're probably looking for more than just the HIT program. And if that is you, I'd love to talk to you for 15 minutes. This is what we're going to go through on the call. After the call, you're going to have a real clear understanding of what to do over the next 90 days. Why do we do this for free? Because a high percentage of you guys are going to want to work with us. But if not, you have the tools, you'll be able to go and do it yourself. High show up rate because we had pre-qualifying questions. Because we knew who we were talking to, we knew the demographic that would have to qualify. If somebody didn't answer the questions that I would like, I would just take them out of the system. I would just take them out of the calendar without even asking them, without even messaging them. Why? Because I knew that from taking 1,200, 1,400 sales calls, if they didn't answer those questions the way we wanted, they were never going to sign up. And again, that's the importance of data. That's the importance of having these systems in place, is because then you take the emotion out of it. If you're desperate for sales, as an example, I know you want to take all the sales calls, but if someone's just not going to buy, then why are you going to give them an hour of your time? Okay. You can put them in somewhere. So when the system, the beauty of, say, Go High Level is we'd have a question that very simply just says, if we find the right program for you, would you be willing to invest in yourself? Yes, I'm ready to take action. Maybe, or no, I just want free advice. If they press no, I want free advice, our system would take them out of the, would pluck them out of the calendar, send them an email with kind of 5 YouTube videos that would give them free advice and say, this is where you should best invest your time for the next few weeks. More than happy to help at that next stage. Happy if you just reach out at that point. So I'm not burning them, but I'm also not going to sit on a call for someone for an hour just for free advice in the nicest way possible. I've got a short window of work in the day. I've got 2 young kids. So that's something that I would highly recommend as well. More importantly, the reason why you want to have this in place is because when we posted that video of 14 million views, if you've got hundreds of thousands of people coming into your DMs, you better hope you've got systems in place to talk to those people. Otherwise, you are going to be spending a very long time in your DMs trying to respond to hundreds of thousands of people. So that's another reason. And also then...
Good problem to have, though.
It's a great complaint to have, but it's even better if you have a system in place that puts them into your email marketing system, and then you can talk to the ones who are green, and then the orange and the reds get looked after by the systems, right? That's the way I look at it.
Absolutely, mate.
So moving down to more bottom of the funnel, this is the one that I believe a lot of people neglect because they're worried. Oh, what if I keep asking for people, what if I keep posting on my stories saying I'm looking for 5 people? So what? If people don't like it and they stop following you, they were never going to buy from you anyway. That's the reality, right? I think people forget this. And I've had these arguments with coaches that I've mentored. They're saying to me they're posting on social media and they're not getting any business. I'm like, have you ever asked for business? And they say, no, well, I thought you said not to overwhelm people. I'm like, if you're asking once a week, you got to remember is 10% of the people will only see your content. If you got 1,000 people following you, maybe 100 people see that. So you have to be repetitive. You have to be saying these things. And the way I look at it is it's only annoying to the person who doesn't want it. That's it. If I've been binging your content and all of a sudden on a Sunday, you tell me there's 2 more spots to get in for the end of the month because, as we said earlier, you can probably only onboard 8 to 10 people in a high ticket environment. You're not lying. And then that might be just the little push that says to somebody, right, it's ready to take action. What have you got to lose? It takes all of about 60 seconds to write, I'm looking for 2 people to do this thing, and we're kicking off at the end of this month. Boom, send it. If you're selling, a product that's a couple of $1,000s, I think that's worth 60 seconds of your time.
Mm. Yeah, and you've got
Yeah.
the people there. That's your audience, right? So
Yeah. And don't worry, like your mom might write to you and tell you she's not interested. Cool. She was never going to buy from me anyway. But I think that's something that I see a lot of people neglect. So if you look at this, like this one only had 7,000 views. But we got a lot more clients off this because it's still 7,000. It's still 166 people wrote on that. And all I said was, like, if you're interested in coaching, DM me the word. So it was really direct. So I still did the top of funnel to get your attention if you didn't know who I was. I still have my middle of funnel to keep you entertained. And then there is the odd bottom of funnel where I'm directly asking you, do you want help? Do you want to come and work with us? Do you need this system? Do you need this product? Again, it doesn't matter if 1,000 people see it and only one person signs up. That's still one person. The system we'll go into is very much, a lot of people are going to be familiar with this, right? Like I still think Go High Level is very effective for all these things, right? It's more so because if you talk about ManyChat as an example, if you're dealing with someone like, say, our Instagram size, if you have thousands of people commenting on something, ManyChat charges you more the more people you have coming in. And this is where I like Go High Level because it doesn't, right? So in terms of the system, one of the things that I highlight to people is everybody says they want more leads, right? I said this earlier. If you're someone selling a high ticket or something that involves a lot of your time, 100 leads might be good to come in today, but do you have the systems in place to accommodate them? Or are you going to shit yourself? Like, do you have the things in place that are going to, for example, gets to 2:30, I go and collect my kids. Anybody reaches out between 2:30 and 5, you better hope that you've got systems in place to entertain them before you can actually be a human being where you need to be a human being. And this is where I think Go High Level is very effective for that. Okay. What I'm talking about, especially if you're not familiar with this, is that if you post a video and you say, hey, comment tech below and I'll send you my checklist to not be overwhelmed by AI, and someone comments tech below, the system's going to send them the checklist. The strategy that I would use for you is always ask them a question at the start. So when you send them a DM, it could be like, hey, Michael, I saw you reached out for this thing. Are you okay if I send it here? And there's a very specific reason for that, is that if you put out a piece of content and it says comment tech below and someone comments tech and then you send them the link straight off the bat, they can go into their message requests, they can access that link and they haven't accepted the message. So what does that do? It prevents you from actually sending them any messages after that point. So that's the reason why you want to ask a question to get an actionable from them, because once the system has connected you both, then you can start to talk to this person. And
this
that's a
is,
big,
this is exactly the same thing that we teach in SMS marketing all the time as well, like database
okay, good.
reactivations. Don't just send out a text message saying, hey, Dan, we've got a great deal on XYZ this week. Here's the link so you can go get it. We would always say, hey, Dan, we've got a great deal on XYZ this week. Are you interested?
Yeah,
Something like that. We want you to reply. You reply, then we'll send you the thing. Like we look at that as like permission marketing as well. It's like,
yeah,
and in your case, they've already said yes, they're interested. But then you want to just connect, confirm, go, yep, cool, no worries, we'll send it through. It builds your connection, it builds trust, all your accounts. It's exactly the same thing in social media as it is with SMS marketing. And we're trying to educate people on that all the time. So
It's super
when you say
effective.
about like putting out that information to train people and people don't see the content, like we literally have so much content on that and so much training, and people still come in every week going, yeah, my database reactivation is not working properly. What am I doing wrong? Yeah, because you did that wrong. Follow the steps here. So constantly repeating yourself is not a bad thing.
Because it's getting even harder now, right? Even like so many emails are just ending up in spam, and that's why you've got to start to try and create conversation first, so that
Mhm.
it looks like it's personal, right? Text messages the same, uh, DM strategies on Instagram or Facebook, they're all the same, but you ask for permission because then it's not salesy. Like I had somebody say to me, "Why do you want my email address?" Like you're given a free program. I said, yeah, it's free. If you don't like it, don't give the email address. I'm not telling you have to opt in. And then they got
But
shitty with me. And I'm saying, mate, I spent $150 getting that PDF made, and you're going to give out to me because I'm giving it to you for free. Like, I also recorded all those videos, stitched them all together, put them on Vimeo, which I host and pay hostage for every year. But no, 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 you don't give your free email address. Don't worry, that you can also unsubscribe to like 30 seconds later. So I've no time for that kind of stuff because I just look at if I get it 5,000 people in there, maybe I have 100 people who just unsubscribe straight after. Okay. It's free advertisement. They might get great value from it, tell 10 people from it. Sweet.
yeah,
Um, all right. So where most people make mistakes, and this is kind of like why I really like something like Go High Level or having a bit more of a why behind what you're doing, it is the ecosystem. Like your ecosystem is super effective. So that way you appreciate, again, if you're starting off in business and you're listening to this, like, yes, get on every sales call that you can get onto. Talk to these people, collate all that data. Like, we ran ads 2 weeks ago. Myself and my team have been taking many sales calls over the last 2 weeks, and I've been using my open Claude to just go. Well, I've actually connected Claude Code to GHL now, and it just goes in and monitors the pipeline. And every time I get off the phone, I'll just open up the Go High Level app on my phone. I'll go into the particular client that our prospect. I'll go into notes, and then I just dictate what I've just said or like spoke about on the call. And so that way it's super quick, and I'm just constantly updating that every time I ring somebody or every time I'm conversing. Just put it in the note section because then AI just blasts over it and actually starts to see similar traits that these people are going through. It then allows you to create a better setting document. If you're hiring closers, then it just makes that a lot easier because they can see all that data that you've literally been talking to your clients. So if you're starting out, you probably don't know what's the best way to structure those calls. You don't know, like, am I going to close them on one call, especially if you're building a big tech offering that's 50 to 100K. Sometimes it's hard to try and close that on one call, right? And you have to appreciate what are the pain points these people have. If I'm building something specific for them, do I have to go off now, do research, see what software they're using, what kind of API connections are available for that, so that we can actually get in there and tailor it for them. That just comes down with repetitively talking to a specific niche, right? So I know Michael works very heavily in the motor trade. We're now targeting construction. Could I help people in the motor trade? I was in the motor industry for 12 years, probably. But is it not better that I kind of refine what I'm doing for one specific area, get really good at it? Fuck, if you do $100,000 build and you get 10 of them, is that not a good thing? Sweet. I can worry about the motor trade further down the track. Or as I always say, is I can try and find my ceiling. And if the ceiling's not coming anytime soon, let's just make as much money as we can in that one specific industry, right?
yeah. That's what your partner as well. And then you can refer those people to Michael, and then when he gets a builder that comes through, he'll refer them back to you as well. You make connections and
100%. And
partnerships, and
I'm heading to Port Macquarie in 4 weeks' time, and hopefully he's available. We can have a coffee, and I can put him in touch with all the businesses that I worked with in Perth and New Zealand. So I've worked with Toyota all my life. So it's like cool. Like that's
so
what it is, right?
Yeah, Michael said there in the comments, and we make all the pesos.
Yes, and have loads of cervezas. Okay, so things that I find really effective is very micro things, right? People are very time poor at the moment. So if you're trying to do a call to action. Like for a lot of people, yeah, okay, podcast might work. Like, hey, do you want to see this interview that I did with Dan on how he grew to 500,000 followers? Sweet. But that's just to get people into your pipeline, right? If you want to get somebody maybe to be a little bit more hot to trot, if we're dealing with a car dealership as an example, getting them to do a quiz or a checklist as to where they could be making mistakes or where revenue could be falling through the cracks. I'll give you a quick example. I started as a car salesman in New Zealand back in 2016, and their target in the pre-owned section was 60 cars a month. They had done 48 consistently for a few months, so they wanted to bring in a new car salesman. Now, the law of averages would say that when you add another person, realistically, like that 48 might stay the same, but then each car salesman gets less cars in the month, right? My first month, my target was 13. I did 12. One fell through on the last day, so I nearly hit my target. That was separate to the 48. So then what happened was the dealership got the shits because they were like, so we've been missing those 13 cars a month. And the point of this is that when you highlight things to businesses and you make sense of it, then they're more likely to want to go work with you, right? So if I've got a checklist that says, here's the 10 biggest mistakes that dealerships are making in 2026, they realistically know it's probably going to take them 60 seconds to review that. If anything that resonates with them, then maybe they're going to go, well, actually, I wouldn't mind talking to this fella. That's one of the most effective things that we've seen now, quizzes and checklists. Pretty much giving people an outcome. And, you know, for me, it's the more people that you just get into your DMs, the more you can get talking to them if you have the time, or you have something like CloseBot, or you have like an AI, especially for tech things. If it's more like fitness where somebody's in pain, I still believe you should be a human being in there and actually talking to them. But for other things like businesses where they just want to, like, for example, our leads come in, they have an option to book a call, but we still ring every single lead that comes in. And we've booked more calls from the leads that have come in than people landing on a landing page booking the call themselves. So don't let that go like, oh, well, the people who booked the call were obviously interested, the other people weren't. No, it's maybe they were just about to do it and someone called them and they just went, oh, I won't worry about it. If you've got their number, ring them ASAP.
They're standing in the queue at the checkout, going, "Oh, this is an interesting thing." While they're waiting for the checkout, the cashier to scan their things, think, "Oh, yeah, that's done," and then they carry on with their day and they forget about that part of it.
Or me, I could be trying to fill it out, and then all of a sudden I have a 3-year-old pulling at my ankle who wants, you know, a different color yogurt because she doesn't like this one.
Yeah.
Like, then you're just going to put the phone down because she's screaming at you. So yeah, I'd like to just, I'm just conscious of time, but I'll just say the last thing here. Just there is different kind of funnels that you can send people in off the back of it. Webinars are really effective if you want to try and get out more information to those individuals. That's one that I see very effective. We do like a free webinar each month, and that just kind of goes through a lot of what we've gone through today. Very similar to this. This is like a webinar style. And the DM funnel is really good for like people will be more confident when they're texting you. A lot of people don't necessarily want to get on a call. So that's where that can be super effective for a lot of people. Happy to answer some questions if you want. A little bit conscious of time, but if the person
Yeah, if we've got any questions, if people want to drop them in the chat,
yeah.
or just let us know. Well, actually, I just want to finish. Well, say this from our point of view as well. So these are things that are always changing too. So all the stuff you said here and what I kind of take away from this is like, you know, that bottom of funnel, like attracting people in is important, and looking at your data and understanding what's going on. Like we had a team meeting yesterday talking about like what is our video strategy moving forward, because what's worked for us in the past, it's still working, but we've hit a certain ceiling in some areas, right, in terms of growth. So we're now looking at going, okay, well, how do we change that and change our video strategy and our content to bring in new people to what I was talking about before? Like we were just JHL focused before. That was it. Now we're changing our business and we're going to a much wider area. So we need to change our content and our strategy around that. So these things will, as long as you are looking, understanding the data and what's going on, how are people engaging, what's the sign up rates, what are your view rates on these videos, the content, what is it doing for you, then you can adjust your strategy accordingly. So I think people always need to be prepared to constantly pivot and shift in their business for these type of things as well, because there'll be new trends, new tools, new things that people are looking at, new problems. like it's going to be well, it's just an evolving process all the time, and we're evolving ours specifically right now. So a lot of this stuff that you've said here, I'll take this. I'm actually going to take this video and I'm going to transcribe this because I used Manus to go through and review all our content. What was the most popular? Um, Gave it a bunch of information on our customers, our stats, and we came out with a whole new strategy about that. And I'm going to feed this transcript of this video into that and go, hey, what else could I take from what Dan said on this video today to help us create our content for those three stages of the funnel as well. So thank you, mate, because I'm going to feed this straight in after this call.
One of the big things I'll say is you can post a video. I could post a video like this, me just sitting here, and sorry, let me rephrase that. I could record a video of me sitting here like this and just saying things, right? And let's say it's 40 seconds long. It might not be optimal to post that video raw like that, because if you watch movies, if you watch things, there's tactics behind stuff. And what I'm talking about is even me zooming in after I've said a sentence, zooming out after I've said a sentence, that just keeps people engaged. So when you review something and you've made a video, and especially at the start, and you go, oh, that's really boring. As human beings, we use a lot of filler words. And it's important that you cut those filler words out and all that kind of stuff. So when you rewatch your content, if you see that, just chop it. And then rather than try and stitch the two together, just make this one zoom in a little bit and then zoom it out. And be mindful of when you're talking. If you make a mistake, like I just said, you can see that my hands weren't moved. So it's going to be very easy for me to chop and change that into the scene. That makes it more addictive. I usually recommend, especially with short form content, either zoom in or zoom out, or use a B-roll footage after like at least 2 seconds.
It's funny. You were saying this the other day on a call that we were on about how movies and ads, they change the scene every 5 to 7 seconds to keep you engaged. And I'd never really thought about that before. And we had that conversation last week. And I was watching movies at the weekend with my son, and there were some trailers and stuff or whatever I was watching anyway. And I consciously noticed that because you'd said it to me. I was like, oh my God, they do. It's flicking so often, which I'd never really thought about before. We were talking about like the attention span and why they do it to keep you engaged and how quickly they flick. So take this away, guys. If you go and watch a movie consciously or an ad consciously after this at the week, tonight or the weekend, whenever you're watching something, and just have um a little experience of how quickly and how often they change those shots, and it's amazing. I've obviously seen it so many times, but I never really thought about it before until we had that conversation last week. And I was watching the week, and I was like, my God, our attention span is so short. It's terrible.
Yeah, it is. The other thing as well is sometimes I'll lead into the next slide. So I might walk off screen and then the next one I'm walking on screen.
Yeah,
So if I'm being stern as an example, I'll usually point and I'll keep my head up. Whereas if I want to be more sympathetic, I'll usually tilt my head. So that you can fall down rabbit holes as to how you want to entertain somebody. But again, ready, fire, aim. Just get shit out there if you're not doing anything. And if you haven't posted anything, start posting stuff. You will be very surprised of what you thought was going to pop off versus what actually pops off.
absolutely,
I
mate.
can see some questions here, Gary. I'm just going to dive into them. I am in a
Yep,
little bit of.
absolutely, mate. I was just going to bring you to those, mate, because I know you have got a
Yeah.
hard stop.
So
So,
first one, Jason, with just connecting Claude to GHL. You can do it from the code. So I have the enterprise level Claude or whatever it is. You connect it through the code itself. There's actually connectors in there, and you can connect it straight to Go Ahead Level. You'll just need to create a private key or a private integration on Go Ahead Level itself. But it's really effective because it can obviously get in there and review things. Obviously, if you have an open claw, it can do it as well. It's very straightforward. There's like,
you
and
can
if you
ask
even
Claude how
ask
to do
Claude
it.
Code, it will
Yeah.
give you the step by step how to do it.
I did a case study last week with Christy, who's done this for her real estate agency, and she just asked Claude how to connect it so that she could go in, and then Claude monitors all the conversations. Exactly what you were saying that you're
Yeah,
doing. She's
it's
doing the
so
same thing.
effective.
She just asked Claude how to do it. So, mate, ask Claude.
Then the next one was just in relation to personal branding with LinkedIn. Um, could you just read that out, Gary, just so I can make sense of that?
Is it even worth trying to do personal branding on LinkedIn and posting content to attract the local businesses, which I think don't even use it that much? So I guess what you're asking there, Rihan, is it worth personal branding on LinkedIn because you don't think the local businesses are actually on LinkedIn that much? I think is your question. Yes, he's clarified. Yes, that's his first part of his question. And there's another one we'll come to afterwards.
I love when I was a personal trainer, I used to have this answer for a lot of things, and the answer was it depends. And the reason why I say that is because earlier on I said, what's your intent behind the platform that you're using? And for example, I post on LinkedIn, my fiance posts on LinkedIn, her stuff pops off like 3 times as much as mine because the people who she's trying to resonate with are on LinkedIn. Me, I do a lot more business on Facebook. I do a lot more business on Instagram. So I know that that's my target. Does it mean that I don't post on LinkedIn? No, I still do monthly webinars and we use the event section on LinkedIn. I pay a VA to spend 2 hours every day in LinkedIn, making connections, starting conversations. So there is strategies behind what you're doing and don't negate it. Again, it depends on what kind of capital you have because, I can pay somebody to do that and maybe I get one client from it. It's already paid for. Cool. So it really depends on what your intent is or who your market is off the back of it. I mentioned earlier about builders. LinkedIn is probably their best strategy because, again, there's loads of architects on LinkedIn and they're happy, especially if they see connections, they're happy to have conversations. They always want more builders in their pipeline so that they can help them to quote. It makes it look better when they're talking to end users. So, again, it depends on the industry that you're in. I know that can be a broad answer, but it's reality. Do your bit of research. That's the beauty of AI. Type who is your ideal client, where would you most likely see these people, and whatever platform they give you, go and research it. I'm trying to get an understanding of like, give me an example of someone who you work with, and then I could probably give you a bit more of a specific answer. Because local businesses is still quite generic, right? Like, is it a local coffee shop, local cafe? Is it a like what is the
Yeah.
service?
I'll just add to that and say, because like we were saying earlier about just putting your content everywhere. So we do that everywhere, but actually for LinkedIn, we make it a little bit different. So part of our, well, it's not a problem, right? We actually have so much content. Like we've got tons of it. Like we do webinars all the time, speaking, case studies, everything, right? So we kind of put everything everywhere except for LinkedIn. So on LinkedIn, we only really post videos of me doing speaking. So it's more of a professional thing. I wouldn't put up all the other content that we have on LinkedIn. And I don't even know really what happens with that on there because it's not a big platform for us. But I feel like, well, we've got that content. I might as well put it there because who knows, could get us a few clients a year, whatever it might do.
So just to answer the question there, what I would do is I would check the area that you're in. I would go onto LinkedIn and I would search for plumbers in that area. Is how many are there? Connect with them. What have you got to lose? Start conversations with them. Give them something of value that you can solve for them. They mightn't have a lot of time, so make sure that thing is less than 60 seconds to absorb. They might be sitting on the toilet, burning some time, or out having a smoke break, and you've given them that thing. It's like, right, sweet. I'm straight into it. It makes sense. I'll reach out to this person. LinkedIn, the one thing that you have to do, in my opinion, is that when you post something, it's ideal that you have somebody in there ready to interact. So if I post on LinkedIn, I'll have my VA ready to go, and she's in making connections. She's commenting. One of the big strategies for LinkedIn is create what we call a celebrity strategy, celebrity profile. So celebrity profiles would be somebody that's doing what you want to do and has a bigger following than you. You start to basically comment on their stuff. So let's say you have 5 different ones. In my scenario, it might be Cody Sanchez, Dan Martel, Gary V, Alex Ramosi. So my VA is posting on all of their content as soon as I post, and then is in the DMs connecting with people because they'll go, "Oh, I saw your comment." They'll come and they'll have a look at your page. So it's a totally different strategy to Instagram. Um, so yeah, hope that makes sense. I do got to jump off in 2 minutes, just FYI. But if
Well,
there's
just
another
the
question,
second part of his question there as well, what would be the best platform to attract local businesses inbound with content, which I think you answered at the beginning anyway, because if you don't know, post everywhere, see which one resonates and where you're getting the views, the reactions, the content, or sorry, not the content, the comments. So if you don't know, try everywhere at the end of the day to start with.
100%. Like local businesses is such a generic. Like again, a plumber might be more active during the day, might get entertained, so likes to watch TikTok videos and Instagram. So maybe, that's where they get it. We're still getting a lot of inbound leads from Meta ads. So that tells me Facebook and Instagram is still very powerful for the particular market that we're going for. But we only know that because we've trialed it.
Yeah. And just remember as well, most of the time those people are there for entertainment, right? I'm on Facebook for entertainment, right? So that all the things you've gone through there as well, it's like, okay, well, what's going to entertain me that's going to want me to engage later on? So if you're thinking of putting your content wherever, Rihan, just make sure that you're entertaining and engaging first, not putting up, hey, here's my business, this is what we do, you should buy from me type content. Engage, attract, then get them through those stages of the funnel, which we've gone through here today.
Last thing I'll say is give all your information. Just put it all out there. Because people are paying for implementation, accountability, support. They're not going to take all your information and go, I'm going to go do it myself. It's not reality. So don't worry. People aren't going to go, oh, I know how to build my CRM sim. I'm just going to go do it myself. No, you're not. You're not. But if I understand exactly what my CRM sim does, like now I can make an educated decision as to whether that's for me.
All right. Awesome, mate. Last thing I'm going to ask you, where can people find you so we can put some links with this video?
Yeah. Handsdan. I was a Handsdan coach. That's where it came from. Systemations is obviously our business. So we very much help people just with the overwhelm of tech, specifically working in kind of the construction industries where we're putting a lot of time and energy. So if you're in the motor trade, go and check out Pinnacle. Michael's your man. But if you're looking for construction, I could certainly have a conversation.
Awesome. All right, mate. Thank you so much, Dan. Appreciate your time today, mate. Take care.
Thanks.
See you, mate.